A lot of us play Fortnite but don't know its story, so we will see how it was from scratch to now. The story begins with the first event that appeared in the game, which is the appearance of a luminous ball in the sky in a very strange way, and the residents began to explore this light through giant telescopes to find out the reason for this light. And day after day, the sound increases and the size becomes larger, and here we all made sure that it was a giant meteor coming and descending in the place where we are. But we soon discovered that it was a group of small meteorites coming with the meteorite. The meteors seemed to descend in the third season at the end, and cause temporary damage until we entered the fourth season. After that, the giant meteorite became divided into several parts, falling on an empty area that was formed in the city of Rusky later. And a third of the season, of all the houses, the meteorite was only destroyed the house and in between them. And the second larger part went down in the middle of the map to the city of Dosti In, a prison, which turned after that into a giant hole in which the hobrax stones that came out from the meteorite at the explosion, these stones the ability to jump high for anyone who used it. The fourth season had two groups of enemies to each other, a group of heroes that work with an unknown agency referred to as the government that controls everything. The second group is the group of villains, the same group in the fourth season that we are currently in, but with different personalities that have nothing to do with Marvel. Carbide was the leader of the heroes, and as for the leader of the villains, Omega, who came out of prison a while ago after the small meteor that destroyed the prison. Omega was able to escape with his men, Omen and Fate, who built a complete building at Mount Shinobi, which they called after that the Den of the Evils. The second plan was formation and creation the robotic army, but before that, Omen and Fate have a mission that must be implemented as soon as possible, which is to collect the hobrax that were present in most parts of the map for the den directly, or at the building they build. Because the power inside the stone is the only key to achieving the goal they aspire to. And the heroes were supposed not to let this happen, but they were preoccupied with an order directed by the agency, or in other words, the government. They were working on a full movie focusing on Mega and how he is a dangerous criminal and wanted by justice. When Omega escaped to protect himself and fight his sworn enemy, the leader of the group of heroes, he decided to make an entire army of robots, and they would implement all his instructions, in addition to Omen and Fayed, the owners of the stones. They had complete confidence in the ability of these stones, which were supposed to be rocket fuel, and what they were making after they succeeded in this mission. He decided to send this missile to the city and detonate it. And no one knows why he wanted to blow up this beautiful city. But the main reason was to open the two worlds, and thus Omega Bacon achieved two goals. In the course of these events, the government was conducting mysterious research regarding the meteorite that came down. It may not be just a natural meteor, it may be the rumor of aliens, which was a real rumor. The government, after a long dig, discovered that the meteor that descended was a spaceship of the first person, which is an unknown being, whom they later called the Visitor. Despite the intense surveillance they made during the meteor's descent, the Visitor was able to get out of the chariot and flee quickly without anyone noticing it. But how is that? No one knows that the Visitor's facade was at the place of the wicked, and as we said in the previous clip, the Visitor was the person who manipulated the screen, which was supposed to be destroyed by a missile. But it turned out that he had the same goal as the evil ones, which is to open the two worlds and connect them to each other. Perhaps the Visitor himself is the one who helps the evil people to get their hobrax. But why and what is the benefit? Until now, no one knows. Here in this scary area the missile launch begins. His mission was to descend on the city and blow it up. But this thing did not happen because of the Visitor's manipulation of it. The missile was actually sending laser beams on the area, as if it was saying that the missile is coming. But before that, there was a loud sound from the same missile, which I personally believe is the Visitor's orders for the missile to move and where it is going. After that, Raft appeared and throws this missile to the opposite direction, then it was absorbed and disappeared into the sky, but it left a large cleft in the sky. Or let us call it the gate between the two worlds. Thus, the evildoers have achieved their goal of opening the two worlds. But they are not able to blow up the city in the end as they planned, And after these wonderful events, we will have finished the 4th season, and we moved along to the 5th season, and it seems that the two worlds have a relationship between them. The other world began to withdraw things that exist in our world, such as the head of a burger, the head of a tomato, and the sign of an ant. There is nothing for the other world of these wonderful things, but it is not important. A large group of banners began to spread all over the map. The desert area called Paradise, which has come to represent a large part of the map. The 5th season was a peaceful season as a story. But this thing does not mean that there is no action at all, because Paradise is between the desert world and the plant world on both sides. Then the gate in the sky is embodied as a cube. Some say that, and others say that the cube is just a body that came out of the other world to start working on specific task. The cube had to walk a great distance. It is true that it is long, once in every movement that happened every hour and 40 minutes. But it is clear that it deliberately intended this slow movement because it left traces and strange symbols in 7 specific areas around the map. The cube sank and merged with the water in the lake, and the 0 point became one of the funniest places in the game. It turned from the lake we were always stuck into a pond that became giant and made you jump for very long distances. It turned out then that the mission of the cube is to control the 0 point area. And now let us welcome the 6th season. The cube carried out its mission and turned from the loot lake area to a floating island flying in the sky, and began rolling the map again. And on the same road from which it came, it returned again. Do you remember the traces and symbols that the cube left behind? So the next task was for him to come back to withdraw the energy that was in them, and after several weeks, all the areas were lifted and became damaged with the island of Loot Lake. And it returned to Loot Lake again in order to store the power he had gained inside this region and return to this place that he had to, or at least remove the hole it left behind. This is the theory of some people. But the theory is closer to the truth, that the goal of the cube from the beginning is to blow up the map. The cube is the villain of the season. This cube started to collapse, and all the energy that it collected after that will be spent in this place. The map after it was completely shaken, as if we had reached the end of the world. But suddenly this is what happened, and after entering this empty world in which the butterfly appeared for the first time. The butterfly was the one who saved us all from the explosion that was happening and brought us back to the island again. This means that the cube did not explode, on the contrary, peace came, and suddenly things returned to their normal course. It seems that the cube has finally reached its end and all the other crazy things that happened had failed. But what was once clear, and what we all understood from the moment, is that the butterfly is all the fragments in the game, which, if all of them are collected, can take the cube to a place very far from the island we are on, and therefore the explosion will not cause any damage to us. Shortly after the end of the event, a flag began to appear with a strange logo of the planet Earth in a camera lens, and the robot M was in the picture, and it is exploring as if there is something strange behind this flag. A few days after the flag was revealed, a giant iceberg, getting closer day by day, appeared on the water. The iceberg, as it approached, turned out to be an entire island heading directly towards us.